prepare for the ICF Credentialing Exam. My biggest recommendation is to look at the competencies and the ethics. So, like what we did earlier, which is we go through the code of ethics, the interpretive statements, and also the core values, understand each one of the statements, consider a little bit about what are some potential scenarios that might arise, and how would I handle them if you were in that situation. What is the decisions that I'll make based on that? So this is the way you kind of prepare. So you read the particular standard, you think through, okay, what are some potential areas that could arise? Okay, how would I handle them? Is that aligned to the ICF code of ethics? What are some of the phrases there? So that's how you prepare for based on the ethics. On the competency side, as you read through the ICF core competencies in detail, you want to look at the way it's phrased, how do they what do they say about that? You can also review some of the YouTube videos I've created in the past, explaining about the ICF competencies as well, and also understand the skill sets or the behaviors in each one of these competencies. And then think about in your own coaching conversations, how do you tend to demonstrate them based on what you've done so far, what you've learned so far. So that's a very, very simple way of preparing for the credentialing exam. Now, some coaches will say that, oh, you should prepare, you should practice some past year exam. There's no past year exam. Okay, so ICF provides like 8 sample questions, which we'll be going through as well. And I think the best way to go through it is to look at the sample questions, look at how they express or what are they looking for, what are the considerations. So I'm going to share with you some strategies of how to think about how to read the questions, especially when you have 81 scenarios. It can be quite tiring to read in the 3 to 4 hour journey. Okay, so let's take a look at the structure of the credentialing exam. From August 20th, okay, so you would have a total of 39 times 2 sets of questions. In the past, before 20th August of 2024, which is in the next 2 weeks, we have 81 scenarios, which is separated into 41 scenarios in section 1 and 40 in section 2. But ICF has just made a revision to provide additional break time for the coaches. So in the past, you only have a 5-minute break, but now you have 10-minute break. In the past, you have 0 breaks, but now you have 5, and now you have 10-minute break based on the feedback. So what you would expect, all in all, you have about 3 hours. And if you're a non-English speaker, you have about 4 hours, 3.5 to 4 hours. And what will happen if you have the first 4 minutes to read the exam instructions, and the time is not counted into your section 1 yet, right? The moment you click onto the next slide and you're ready for section 1, you have 39 items. What these items are is 39 scenarios. Each one of these scenarios have a best possible option and the worst possible option. So each one is scenarios. So you can think about it as 2 questions per scenario. But essentially it's just each scenario items. So 39 for section 1, 39 for section 2. Each one of the section you have about 83 minutes, and in between you have a scheduled break of 10 minutes. So what this means is that once you have finished 83 minutes for section 1, the proctor will ask you to take a break. You can go out, go to the restroom, take a drink, take a water, and then come back for section 2. However, you cannot review section 1 again after your break. So which means that you want to fully utilize the 83 minutes that you have by going through them. So if you look at this, you have about 2 minutes per question, or 2 minutes per scenario, about that time. Right? So you want to kind of pace yourself all the way through so that you don't have exam fatigue by the end of the 83 minutes. Yeah. So the key thing there is you cannot review the section 1 after you come back from a break. So you want to fully utilize the 3 minutes, go through it, take your time, refresh your thoughts and memories of it before going through those questions. Now, all these questions will be random, which means that they come from a question bank, and every individual will have a different sequence of questions. Okay, and what are these questions based on? These are the various domains. So you have all the 8 core competencies that we tested. So what we have kind of looked at earlier today was on ethical practice. Okay, so ethical practice includes your code of ethics, which was what we covered earlier, and the rest would have equal weightage across competency number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you have all these domains. Okay. However, you would not know which domain it is. That means it's not going to ask you in sequence. So they will not say like, oh, we're going to ask you about ethics now. So these are the 10 questions. No. So they just give you scenarios. You will not know which it falls under. But in that whole 80 questions, you have a random sequence of questions that will cover all these different elements. Okay. Okay. Good. Any questions so far?
You just mentioned there's always the best and worst answer. So
Yep.
you always have to give
Two.
two for each question.
Yes. Yes. So for each one of these items or scenarios, there will always be two question. One is what's the best, what's the worst action. So you drag and drop the four of the responses, which one it goes under.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay, so and basically, if you look at this, it covers all the 8 core competencies. Yeah, and you will find that it also relies some of the questions relies on more than one competency. For example, in ethics, or in coaching mindset, there may be other corresponding competencies that we need to consider as well. Okay, so for us to kind of think about the exam process. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to run through several scenarios or several sample questions from the ICF, and I'm going to share with you some strategies in terms of how to consider them and what are some of the uh, preparations you need to think about, the analysis you need to think about as you're considering them as well. Okay, so we're going to look through the scenarios first, and then we're going to discuss what are some things you think about, or what's the immediate competency you think it falls under? Because that will kind of help you better. So if you read the scenario and you kind of sense that, hey, maybe this is asking me about competency 1 or 2, it's going to be easier for you to kind of relate what's the best or what's the worst possible option.